Everyone saw the elderly woman trapped in the car. Everyone heard her desperate knocking on the glass. But in a busy Seoul parking lot, surrounded by dozens of people, not a single person helped. They assumed she'd accidentally locked herself in. They laughed and took photos. They told each other someone else would handle it. Meanwhile, the temperature inside that car climbed past 40 degrees, and the woman's breathing became weaker with every passing second. Nasirian, a Tanzanian widow who worked at a nearby supermarket, was the only one who recognized the emergency for what it was. She called for help. She begged the crowd to do something. When they refused, she picked up an emergency hammer and made a split-second decision that would cost 8 million won in damages. The window shattered. The grandmother gasped for air. And moments later, Seoul's most feared mafia boss arrived to find a stranger standing over the person he loved most in the world. What happened next, nobody in that parking lot could have predicted. Hello, besties. Welcome back to my channel. And if you're watching this, and your heart is already racing, you're in the right place. Hit that like button, because this story is about to get intense. Nasirian pushed her shopping cart toward the exit, her shoulders aching from the long shift. The Seoul summer heat hit her face the moment the automatic doors opened. She wiped her forehead with the back of her hand and headed toward the bus stop. That's when she heard it. A faint knocking sound. She slowed her steps, scanning the parking lot. Most people rushed past her, too busy with their phones or their own thoughts to notice anything unusual. The knocking came again, louder this time. Nasirian turned her head and spotted a black luxury car parked 3 rows away. An elderly woman sat in the driver's seat, her face pressed close to the window. She was hitting the glass with her palm. Nasirian stopped walking. Something felt wrong. The old woman's mouth was moving, forming words Nasirian couldn't hear. Her other hand pressed buttons on the door panel, over and over. Nothing happened. Nasirian left her cart by a pillar and walked closer. The grandmother's eyes found hers, wide and desperate. She pointed at the door handle, then at the window button. Her chest rose and fell quickly, too quickly. "Hello," Nasirian called out, approaching the driver's side. "Are you okay?" The woman shook her head. She pressed the unlock button again. The door didn't respond. She tried the window. It stayed shut. A man in a business suit walked past, glanced at the car, and chuckled. "Old people and their fancy cars," he muttered to his companion. "Probably locked herself in." His friend laughed. "Someone's kids bought her something too complicated." They kept walking. Nasirian's jaw tightened. She knocked on the window. "Can you hear me?" The grandmother nodded, her silver hair sticking to her damp forehead. "The doors won't open?" Nasirian asked, speaking slowly and clearly. The old woman shook her head again. She pointed at the control panel, then made a helpless gesture. Her breathing had become shallow. Nasirian pulled out her phone and dialed emergency services while keeping her eyes on the grandmother. "Emergency hotline. What's your situation?" "There's an elderly woman trapped inside a car at the Hanyul District Shopping Center parking lot. The electronic locks aren't working. She can't get out." "Is she injured?" "Not injured, but she's struggling to breathe. It's very hot today. The sun is directly on the car. We'll send someone right away. Please stay with her and keep her calm. Try to get her to take slow breaths." Nasirian ended the call and moved closer to the window. She made a breathing motion, slow and exaggerated. "Breathe slowly, okay? Help is coming." The grandmother tried to copy her, but panic had already set in. Sweat ran down her face. She fumbled with her phone, her hands shaking too much to dial properly. A small crowd had started to gather. "What's happening?" a young woman asked. "She's trapped inside. The locks won't work," Nasirian explained. "Oh, that's terrible," the woman said, but she didn't move to help. She just stood there, recording with her phone. More people stopped to watch. Most of them whispered to each other, or took photos. Nobody did anything. "Someone should call the owner," a middle-aged man suggested. "She might be the owner," Nasirian said, her voice sharp. "Then she should know how to unlock her own car," another voice added. Several people laughed. Nazarian felt heat rising in her chest, and it had nothing to do with the weather. She turned back to the grandmother, who had slumped slightly in her seat. Her eyes were closing. "Hey," Nazarian banged on the window. "Stay awake. Please stay awake." The old woman's eyes fluttered open, but barely. "How long until the emergency team arrives?" someone asked. Nazarian checked her phone. Only 3 minutes had passed since her call, but it felt like an hour. "They said they're coming." "This is what happens when old people drive cars with too much technology," a woman in expensive sunglasses said. "My mother-in-law is the same way. Can't figure out anything." Nazarian spun around. "She's not stupid. The car malfunctioned. She could die in there while you're all standing around talking." The crowd went quiet for a moment. Then someone said, "Die? That's a bit dramatic." "Look at her," Nazarian pointed. "Does she look fine to you?" A few people glanced at the grandmother and shifted uncomfortably, but nobody stepped forward. Nazarian checked the car doors again, pulling each handle. All locked. She peered through the back window. No manual locks visible. Everything was electronic. The grandmother's head drooped forward. "Hey!" Nazarian slammed her palm against the glass. "Don't close your eyes." No response. Panic shot through Nazarian's veins like ice water. She looked around wildly. "Does anyone have something to break the window?" The crowd backed up. "Are you crazy?" the woman in sunglasses said. "Do you know what kind of car that is?" "I don't care what kind of car it is. You'll have to pay for the damage." "Then I'll pay for it." "That window probably costs more than you make in 6 months, a man said. "Just wait for the professionals." Nazarian looked at the grandmother again. Her lips had a bluish tint. Time slowed down. Nazarian's mind raced through options. Emergency services could be another 10 minutes, maybe 15 in Seoul traffic. The grandmother didn't have 15 minutes. She scanned the parking lot and spotted a delivery truck 2 rows over. The driver was unloading boxes. Nazarian ran toward him. "Excuse me, do you have anything in your truck? Tools, maybe?" The driver, a man in his 50s, frowned. "Why?" "There's an emergency. An old woman is trapped in a car, and she's dying." He followed her gaze to the crowd around the black sedan. "The locks are stuck?" "Yes, and nobody's helping. Please, do you have anything?" He hesitated, then reached into his truck and pulled out a small emergency hammer with a pointed metal tip. "This is for breaking car windows in emergencies. You sure about this?" Nazarian grabbed it. "Thank you." She ran back to the car. The crowd had grown larger. Everyone watching like this was some kind of street performance. "Don't do it," someone warned. "You're going to get arrested." "That's private property," another added. "She's dying," Nazarian shouted. Her hands shook as she positioned the hammer near the rear passenger window, away from where the grandmother sat. "This is insane," the woman in sunglasses said. "Someone stop her." But nobody moved to stop her. They just wanted to watch and judge. Nazarian thought of her late husband, how he'd always told her that doing the right thing was more important than doing the easy thing. She thought of her own grandmother back in Tanzania, how she'd feel if strangers stood by and watched her suffer. She swung the hammer. The window exploded into tiny pieces, the safety glass crumbling into pebbles rather than sharp shards. The alarm started blaring immediately, a piercing sound that made everyone jump. Nazarian dropped the hammer and reached through the broken window, unlocking the door from the inside. She pulled it open, and a wave of heat poured out. It had to be over 40 degrees inside that car. The grandmother was barely conscious. "Help me," Nazarian called out. This time, a few people actually moved. The delivery driver appeared at her side, and together they carefully helped the elderly woman out of the car. They guided her to a shaded area and sat her down on the curb. Someone finally had the sense to bring water. The grandmother's breathing was ragged, her skin pale and clammy. Nazarian sat beside her, holding her hand. "You're safe now," Nazarian said softly. "Just breathe." The old woman's fingers squeezed hers weakly. The alarm continued to wail. People had their phones out, some calling, others still recording. "The police are definitely coming now," someone muttered. Nasirian didn't care. The grandmother was alive. That was all that mattered. But then something changed in the crowd's energy. People started backing away, their expressions shifting from curious to nervous. Nasirian heard the engines before she saw them. 3 black SUVs turned into the parking lot, moving fast. They stopped in a semicircle around the broken car, and men in dark suits poured out. Not 2 or 3 men, at least a dozen. The crowd scattered like birds. Within seconds, the men had formed a perimeter. One of them, older with gray at his temples, rushed to the grandmother's side. "Madam Im," he said, dropping to one knee. His face was pale with worry. "Are you hurt?" The grandmother shook her head slightly. She tried to speak, but only managed a whisper. Another man barked orders into his phone. "Get the medical team here now." "Yes, now. I don't care about traffic." Nasirian slowly released the grandmother's hand and started to stand up, trying to back away quietly. These people clearly knew her. They would take care of her. Nasirian had done what needed to be done. Time to disappear before questions started. But the grandmother's hand shot out and grabbed her wrist with surprising strength for someone who'd just been on the verge of passing out. "Don't go," the old woman whispered in Korean. Nasirian froze. The gray-haired man's sharp eyes fixed on her. "Who are you?" I helped her out of the car," Nasirian said quietly. "You broke the window?" She nodded, bracing herself. His expression was unreadable. Before he could say anything else, another SUV pulled up. This one, even more imposing than the others. The parking lot went completely silent. Even the men in suits straightened up, their faces tense. The driver's door opened first, and a man stepped out, scanning the area with cold efficiency. Then he opened the back passenger door. Nasirian had never believed in presence before, that intangible thing that made someone impossible to ignore. She did now. The man who stepped out of that car didn't have to announce himself. Every person in that parking lot knew he was dangerous just by looking at him. He was tall, his black hair styled back, his expression carved from ice. He wore all black, simple but clearly expensive, and he moved like someone who'd never been afraid of anything in his life. Ju Tae-yun. Nasirian didn't know his name yet, but she knew what he was. She'd lived in Seoul long enough to recognize the type. Money, power, the kind of man ordinary people avoided. He walked straight to his grandmother, and the entire wall of suits parted for him without a word. His cold expression cracked the moment he saw her sitting on the curb, disheveled and weak. He dropped down beside her, and for just a second, Nasirian saw fear flash across his face. "Grandmother." His voice was low but urgent. "What happened?" "The car. It wouldn't open," she managed to say. "I couldn't get out." His jaw tightened. He looked at the shattered window, then at the crowd of onlookers who were still filming from a distance. When he stood up, the temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. "Who broke the window?" he asked. Nobody answered. Several people suddenly found their phones very interesting. "I asked a question," Tae-yun said, his voice quieter now, which somehow made it more terrifying. The grandmother tugged on Nasirian's sleeve. "She did. She saved me." Every eye turned to Nasirian. She wanted the ground to swallow her whole. Instead, she lifted her chin and met his gaze. The doors were locked. She couldn't breathe. "I called emergency services, but they were taking too long." Tae-yun studied her for a long moment. His eyes were dark and sharp, missing nothing. He took in her simple clothes, her work shoes, the name tag she'd forgotten to take off from the supermarket. "You made the right call," he said finally. Nasirian blinked. That was not what she'd expected. He turned to the gray-haired man. "Get her to the hospital. Full check. I want Dr. Kang waiting when you arrive." "Yes, sir." "And find out what happened to the car. Every detail." "Already on it, sir." A medical team arrived. Actual paramedics with equipment. They carefully checked the grandmother's vital signs while Tae-yun watched like a hawk. When they tried to lift her onto a stretcher, she protested. "I can walk." "Grandmother, please," Tae-yun said, his tone softer now. "I'm fine, Tae-yun. This young woman saved my life." She looked at Nasirian again. "What's your name, dear?" Nasarian. Nasarian, the grandmother repeated, smiling despite her obvious exhaustion. That's beautiful. Thank you, Nasarian. Thank you for not ignoring me like everyone else. The words hit Nasarian harder than she expected. Her throat tightened. Anyone would have done the same. But they didn't, the old woman said, glancing at the lingering crowd. Only you did. The paramedics convinced her to at least sit on the stretcher, and they began wheeling her toward the ambulance. Taeyun walked beside her, holding her hand. Nasarian thought that was it. Time to go home, process this insanity, and maybe have a strong cup of tea. She'd taken 3 steps toward where she'd left her shopping cart when that same quiet voice stopped her. Wait. She turned. Taefun had walked back toward her, while his grandmother was being loaded into the ambulance. Up close, he was even more intense. He didn't smile, didn't soften his expression at all. You probably saved her life, he said. I just did what was needed. Most people don't. He pulled a card from his pocket and held it out. If there's any trouble because of the damage, call this number. Any costs, any problems, we'll handle it. Nasarian stared at the card but didn't take it. That's not necessary. It is. I don't want anything. His eyes narrowed slightly, like she'd just said something in a foreign language. You damaged an expensive vehicle to save a stranger. There will be consequences. Let me deal with them. I made my choice. I'll handle whatever comes. For the first time, something flickered in his expression. Surprise, maybe. Or confusion. I insist, he said. And I'm saying no thank you. Nasarian kept her voice polite but firm. I'm glad your grandmother is safe. That's enough. She turned to leave again. At least tell me where you work, Taeyun called after her, in case we need to reach you. Nasarian pointed at her name tag without turning around. It says right here, have a good day. She walked away before he could respond, her heart hammering in her chest. She'd just turned down help from someone who clearly wasn't used to being turned down. Stupid? Maybe. But Nasarian had learned a long time ago that accepting help from powerful people came with strings attached. She wanted no strings. She found her shopping cart right where she'd left it, grabbed it, and headed for the bus stop. Her hands were still shaking from adrenaline. Behind her, she heard the ambulance drive away, siren wailing. She'd done a good thing today. That was all. Tomorrow, life would go back to normal. Nasarian had no idea how wrong she was. The next morning, she woke up to 17 missed calls from her supervisor. Her stomach dropped. She called back immediately. Nasarian, where are you? Her supervisor's voice was strained. At home. It's my day off. I need you to come in, now. Is something wrong? There was a pause. Just come in, please. The line went dead. Nasarian got dressed in record time, her mind spinning through possibilities. Had someone complained? Was she being fired for the incident yesterday? Maybe the car owner was pressing charges. She took the bus to the supermarket, her leg bouncing with anxiety the entire ride. When she walked through the employee entrance, 3 of her co-workers stopped talking and stared at her. What? She asked. They just shook their heads and went back to whispering. Her supervisor's office door was open. He waved her in frantically, then closed it behind her. Mr. Han, what's going on? He ran his hand through his thinning hair. Nasarian, I need you to tell me exactly what happened yesterday in the parking lot. Her chest tightened. I helped an elderly woman who was trapped in her car. By breaking the window. Yes. Do you know who that woman was? An old lady who needed help. Mr. Han pulled up something on his computer and turned the screen toward her. It was a news article. The headline read, Mystery Woman Saves Prominent Soul Matriarch in Dramatic Rescue. There was a photo, grainy but clear enough. Nasarian, mid-swing with the hammer. Another photo showed her sitting with the grandmother, holding her hand. This is everywhere, Mr. Han said. Every news site, social media, everywhere. People are calling you a hero. Nasarian's mouth went dry. I didn't do it for attention. I know. But there's more. He clicked to another tab. Someone tracked down where you work. We've had reporters calling since 6 this morning. And then, an hour ago, we got a delivery. A delivery? He pointed to the corner of his office. Nasirian turned and her eyes went wide. Stacked neatly against the wall were at least 20 boxes wrapped in expensive paper with silk ribbons. What is all that? Gifts. For you. From the Im family. The who? Im Tae-yoon's family. You really don't know who he is? Nasirian shook her head slowly. Mr. Han sat down heavily. He runs half the nightlife in Seoul. Restaurants, clubs, hotels. Some say other things too. Things people don't talk about openly. He's very powerful, very dangerous, and very, very rich. The room felt smaller suddenly. His grandmother is Im Soon-hee. She's basically Seoul royalty. Old money, old family, major influence, and you saved her life. I just broke a window. You broke a window that nobody else had the courage to break. Mr. Han leaned forward. Nasirian, this is serious. These people don't forget debts. What did Ju Tae-yoon say to you yesterday? He offered to help if there was any trouble. I said no. Mr. Han's eyes nearly popped out of his head. You said no? I didn't want anything from him. That's not how this works. He stood up and started pacing. People like him don't take no for an answer. They repay their debts whether you want them to or not. It's about honor, about face. So what do I do? Accept the gifts. Be gracious. Don't make waves. He stopped pacing and looked at her seriously. And whatever you do, don't insult them by refusing again. Nasirian looked at the stack of boxes. She didn't want gifts. She didn't want attention. She just wanted to live her quiet life. But something told her that quiet life had just ended. There's one more thing, Mr. Han said reluctantly. There's a man in the lobby. He says he's here to see you. He's been waiting for 2 hours. Who is he? He didn't give his name, but he's wearing a suit that costs more than my car, and he has the kind of face that makes security guards nervous. Nasirian closed her eyes. Gray hair? Older? Yes. The gray-haired man from yesterday. Of course. Should I send him away? Mr. Han asked. Every instinct told her to say yes, but she remembered the grandmother's face, her weak smile, the way she'd thanked Nasirian with tears in her eyes. No, Nasirian said quietly. I'll talk to him. She walked out to the lobby, her heart pounding. The gray-haired man stood by the window, hands clasped behind his back. When he saw her, he bowed slightly. Miss Nasirian, thank you for seeing me. How is she? The grandmother? Madam Im is recovering well, thanks to you. The doctors said another 10 minutes in that heat could have been fatal. His expression was grave. You saved her life. Our family owes you a debt we can never truly repay. You don't owe me anything. I'm afraid that's not for you to decide. He gestured toward the seating area. May we sit? I promise I won't take much of your time. Reluctantly, Nasirian sat. He sat across from her, maintaining a respectful distance. My name is Park Min-soo. I've worked for the Im family for 30 years. Madam Im asked me to deliver a message personally. He pulled out an envelope and set it on the table between them. She would like to invite you to tea tomorrow afternoon. To thank you properly. Nasirian didn't touch the envelope. That's very kind, but not necessary. She thought you might say that. Park Min-soo smiled slightly. Madam Im is a very determined woman. She's quite insistent about meeting with you. Mr. Park, I appreciate the thought, but I don't think it's a good idea. May I ask why? How could she explain without being rude? That she didn't want to be tangled up with powerful people? That she'd seen what happened when ordinary people got involved with extraordinary families? That she'd worked too hard to build her simple, safe life in Seoul to risk it now? I'm just not comfortable with it, she said finally. Park Min-soo nodded slowly, like he'd expected this answer too. I understand your hesitation, but consider this. Madam Im is 83 years old. Yesterday, she thought she was going to die alone in that car, with dozens of people watching, and no one willing to help. Then you appeared. You didn't know who she was. You didn't expect a reward. You simply saw someone in need and acted. That means something to her. Something important. He stood up, leaving the envelope on the table. The address is inside, along with a phone number. Tomorrow at 3. If you change your mind, just call, and we'll send a car. If you don't come, we'll respect your wishes. But I hope you'll think about it. Not for us, for her." He bowed again and walked out. Naserian stared at the envelope for a long time, before finally picking it up. Inside was a thick card with an address in one of Seoul's most exclusive neighborhoods. A personal phone number was written in elegant handwriting at the bottom. Also inside was a check. Naserian's eyes widened at the amount. 5 million won, just for breaking a window. This was exactly what she'd been afraid of. She tucked the check back into the envelope and put it in her pocket. Tomorrow, she'd figure out how to return it. Tonight, she just wanted to go home. But when her shift ended and she stepped outside, there was a car waiting. Not a black SUV this time, but a sleek silver sedan. The driver got out when he saw her. "Miss Naserian? I didn't call for a car. Compliments of Mr. Ju, to ensure you get home safely. I take the bus. Mr. Ju insists." Of course he does, Naserian thought. She was too tired to argue. The bus ride was 40 minutes with 2 transfers. The thought of just sitting in a comfortable car was too tempting. "Fine," she said. "Thank you." The drive took 15 minutes. The driver was professional and silent, which she appreciated. When they pulled up to her small apartment building, he got out and opened her door. "Should I pick you up for work tomorrow?" he asked. "No, that's okay," Mr. Ju said to offer. "The option is available whenever you need it. Please tell Mr. Ju I appreciate his concern, but I'm fine on my own." The driver's expression suggested he thought she was crazy, but he simply nodded. "As you wish. Have a good evening." Naserian climbed the stairs to her 3rd-floor apartment, unlocked 3 different locks, and finally collapsed onto her couch. Her phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "I hope you arrived home safely. JTY." Naserian stared at it. How did he get her number? Stupid question. A man like that could get anything he wanted. She didn't reply. Instead, she made herself dinner, took a long shower, and tried to pretend that her life wasn't about to get very complicated. That night, she dreamed of broken glass and dark eyes that saw too much. The next morning, Naserian woke up to her name trending on Korean social media. She discovered this because her coworker Mina called at 7 in the morning, practically screaming into the phone. "Naserian, you're famous. Like, actually famous." Naserian rubbed her eyes. "What are you talking about?" "Check Naver News. Check anywhere. The video of you smashing that window has over 2 million views." "That's not possible." "It's very possible. Someone made you a fan page. They're calling you the Angel of Seoul." Naserian hung up and immediately searched her name. Mina was right. The video was everywhere, along with speculation about who she was, where she was from, why she'd helped when nobody else would. Most comments were positive. Some called her brave. Others said she was kind. A few pointed out that she was African and praised her for representing her community well. But there were other comments too. She probably wanted attention. Foreigners, always trying to be heroes. I bet she knew who the old woman was. This seems staged. Naserian's stomach churned. She closed the browser and got ready for work, trying to ignore the creeping anxiety. At the supermarket, things were worse. Customers kept staring at her. Some whispered behind their hands. A few asked for photos, which she politely declined. One woman actually told her she was an inspiration, which made Naserian so uncomfortable she nearly dropped a whole carton of eggs. During her lunch break, she sat in the employee room alone, grateful for the quiet. The door opened. Her manager, Mr. Han, poked his head in. "Someone's here to see you again." Naserian's appetite vanished. "The same man from yesterday?" "No. Different. Younger. He's waiting in my office." The way Mr. Han said it made Naserian's pulse quicken. She followed him down the hall, her mind racing through possibilities. When Mr. Han opened his office door, she understood his nervousness. Ju Tae-yoon stood by the window, looking completely out of place among the cheap furniture and flickering fluorescent lights. He turned when she entered, his expression unreadable. Miss Naserian, he said with a slight nod. Mr. Han practically ran out of the room, closing the door behind him. Naserian stayed near the door. Mr. Ju, I wasn't expecting you. I wanted to check on you myself. The media attention has been intense. I'm managing. Are you? He gestured to the chair. Please, sit. This is my workplace. I should be standing. The corner of his mouth twitched. Almost a smile, but not quite. You don't make things easy, do you? I don't mean to be difficult. I didn't say difficult. I said easy. There's a difference. He moved away from the window, maintaining a respectful distance. My grandmother wants to meet with you. I assume Park Min-soo delivered the invitation. He did. And? I haven't decided yet. Tae-shun studied her for a moment. You're afraid of us. I'm cautious. Smart. He pulled something from his jacket pocket. The check she'd left in the envelope. You didn't cash this. I can't accept it. It's not payment. It's to cover any expenses or trouble that might come from what happened. There hasn't been any trouble. Yet. He set the check on Mr. Han's desk. The window you broke cost 8 million won to replace. The car is a custom model with specialized glass. If the owner decides to press charges or sue for damages, you'll need legal representation. This doesn't even begin to cover that. Naserian's heart sank. 8 million won. She'd have to work for months to pay that back. Tae-yoon must have seen her expression change because his voice softened slightly. There won't be any charges. I've already handled it. But I'm telling you this so you understand that your action, while heroic, had real consequences. Consequences my family is honored to take care of. Why? The question came out before she could stop it. Why go through all this trouble for someone you don't know? Because you went through trouble for someone you didn't know. You asked for nothing in return. In my world, that's rare enough to be remarkable. They stood in silence for a moment. My grandmother really does want to meet you, Tae-yoon said. Not as a debt, not as obligation. She genuinely likes you. She hasn't stopped talking about the brave woman who saved her life. It would mean a lot to her if you came. Naserian felt her resolve weakening. She thought of the old woman's frightened eyes, her weak smile, the way she'd held Naserian's hand like it was a lifeline. Just tea? She asked. Just tea. 1 hour. If you're uncomfortable at any point, you can leave, no questions asked. And after that, we're even? No more gifts, no more car service, no more anything? Tae-shun's eyes flickered with something she couldn't identify. If that's what you want, it is. Then yes, after tea, if you want nothing more to do with us, we'll respect that. Naserian took a deep breath. Okay, I'll go. Thank you. He pulled out his phone. I'll have a car pick you up tomorrow at 2:30. I can take the bus. The address is in Seongbuk-dong. The bus route takes 90 minutes with 3 transfers. The car takes 20 minutes. He looked up from his phone. This isn't about showing off. It's about being practical. He had a point, much as she hated to admit it. Fine, she said. 2:30. I'll send you the details. He moved toward the door, then paused. For what it's worth, I'm glad you said yes. My grandmother hasn't been this excited about anything in years. Then he was gone, leaving only the faint scent of expensive cologne and Naserian's racing thoughts. She picked up the check from the desk and stared at it. 5 million won. More money than she'd ever held at once. Slowly, she tore it into pieces and threw it in the trash. If she was doing this, she was doing it on her own terms. The rest of the day crawled by. Customers continued staring. Her co-workers asked endless questions she didn't want to answer. By the time her shift ended, she was exhausted. She took the bus home, refusing to look for a waiting car. Her independence was one of the few things she had left, and she wasn't giving it up. That night, she stood in front of her closet for 20 minutes, trying to figure out what someone wore to tea with Seoul royalty. Everything she owned was practical, simple, cheap. Nothing seemed right. Finally, she chose a navy blue dress she'd bought for job interviews, paired with the only nice shoes she had. It would have to do. She barely slept. When morning came, she was already awake, watching the sunrise through her small window. Work dragged. She kept checking the clock. anxiety building with each passing hour. At 2:15, she changed in the employee bathroom, her hands shaking as she zipped up the dress. Mina caught her on the way out. "You look nice. Hot date?" "Just a meeting." "With who? You never go anywhere." "It's complicated." Mina's eyes went wide. "Wait, is this about that car thing? Are you meeting with them? The rich people?" Nasirian didn't answer, which was answer enough. "Oh my God, tell me everything later. Every single detail." At exactly 2:30, a silver car pulled up outside. Not the same driver from before, but a woman this time, middle-aged with kind eyes. "Miss Nasirian? I'm Mrs. Lee. I'll be taking you to Madam Im's residence." The drive through Seoul was surreal. They left the crowded streets Nasirian knew and entered neighborhoods where walls hid sprawling properties and security cameras watched every corner. Mrs. Lee pulled through a gate that opened automatically, revealing a traditional Korean house that looked like it belonged in a historical drama. Beautiful tile roofs, wooden beams, a garden that probably required a full-time staff. Nasirian's courage nearly failed. Mrs. Lee must have sensed it, because she said gently, "Madam Im is one of the kindest people you'll ever meet. There's nothing to worry about." Park Min-soo waited at the entrance. He bowed when Nasirian stepped out of the car. "Miss Nasirian, welcome. Madam Im is in the garden. Please, follow me." They walked through the house, and despite her nerves, Nasirian couldn't help noticing the beautiful artwork on the walls, the traditional furniture mixed with modern pieces, the way everything felt both elegant and lived in. The garden was even more stunning. Carefully pruned trees, a small pond with koi fish, stone paths that wound between flowering plants. And there, sitting at a low table under a pavilion, was the grandmother. She looked completely different from the frightened, disheveled woman in the car. Today she wore a beautiful hanbok in soft lavender, her silver hair neatly arranged. Her face lit up when she saw Nasirian. "You came," she said, her voice warm. "I'm so happy." Nasirian bowed, suddenly unsure of the proper etiquette. "Thank you for inviting me, Madam Im." "Please, sit. And call me grandmother. Everyone does." She gestured to the cushion across from her. Nasirian sat carefully, very aware that she probably looked ridiculous in her cheap dress. If grandmother noticed, she didn't show it. Instead, she poured tea with steady hands, a huge improvement from 3 days ago. "How are you feeling?" Nasirian asked. "Much better, thanks to you. The doctor said I was severely dehydrated, and my blood pressure was dangerously high. Another few minutes and I could have had a stroke." She slid a cup of tea across the table. "You saved my life, Nasirian. I will never forget that. I just did what anyone should have done. But nobody else did." Grandmother's eyes turned sad. "I was so scared in that car. I could see people watching, laughing even. I thought I was going to die while strangers took photos. Then I saw your face, and I knew someone finally understood." Nasirian's throat tightened. She sipped her tea to avoid having to speak. "Tell me about yourself," grandmother said, her tone brightening. "You're from Tanzania?" "Yes, I came to Seoul 5 years ago." "Do you have family here?" "No, my family is back home." "That must be lonely." Nasirian shrugged. "I'm used to it." Used to it and happy with it are different things. Grandmother smiled gently. "I know something about loneliness. My husband passed away 15 years ago. My son and daughter-in-law died in an accident 10 years ago. Now it's just me and Taeyun. I'm sorry for your losses." "Thank you, dear. Loss is part of life, isn't it? We carry it and keep going." She refilled Nasirian's cup. "Is that why you're in Seoul? Running from loss or running toward something new?" The question caught Nasirian off guard. Nobody had ever asked her that so directly. "Both, maybe," she admitted quietly. Grandmother nodded knowingly. "The best journeys usually are." They talked for over an hour. Grandmother asked about Tanzania, about Nasirian's work, her life in Seoul. She shared stories about her own youth, about raising her grandson, about the changing city around them. Nasirian found herself relaxing, laughing even. Grandmother was funny and sharp, with opinions on everything from modern music to politics. She treated Nasirian like a guest, a friend. not like the help or a curiosity. "My grandson speaks highly of you," grandmother said eventually. Nasarian nearly choked on her tea. "He barely knows me. He knows you rejected his money twice." That impressed him greatly. Most people in his life want something from him. You wanted nothing. It's refreshing. "I just don't like feeling indebted." Neither does he, which is why this situation frustrates him so much. Grandmother's eyes twinkled. "You saved the person he loves most in the world, and you won't let him thank you properly. It's driving him crazy." "That's not my intention." "I know. Which makes it even better." Grandmother laughed, a light sound that made her seem decades younger. "You're good for him, I think." Before Nasirian could figure out how to respond to that, footsteps approached. Taeyun appeared on the garden path, still dressed in all black, looking like he'd just come from a business meeting. His expression softened when he saw his grandmother. "You're late," grandmother said, but there was no real complaint in her voice. "Sorry, grandmother. Things ran long." His eyes shifted to Nasirian. "I hope I'm not interrupting." "Not at all. Join us. We were just talking about you." He raised an eyebrow but sat down next to his grandmother. Park Min-soo appeared with another cup, then vanished again silently. "If you're still watching, drop a comment and let me know which moment has been your favorite so far. And stick around, because things are about to get even more interesting." The dynamic changed with Taeyun there. He was more guarded, more formal. But Nasarian noticed the way he looked at his grandmother, checking to make sure she was okay, that she wasn't tiring herself out. "The car has been examined," he said. "Complete electrical failure. A wire harness, degraded, and caused a system shutdown. All the electronic locks, windows, everything stopped working at once." "That's terrifying," Nasirian said. "It's rare, but not unheard of. The manufacturer is investigating." His jaw tightened. If grandmother had been on the road instead of parked, it could have been much worse. "But she wasn't, and I'm fine," grandmother said firmly. "Thanks to Nasirian, I'm perfectly fine." Taeyun looked at Nasirian then, really looked at her. "We can never thank you enough." "You already have. This tea, this conversation, it's more than enough." "Taeyun, Nasirian was just telling me about her work at the supermarket," grandmother said. "Did you know she speaks 4 languages?" He shook his head, clearly interested despite himself. Nasirian felt her cheeks warm. "It's not that impressive. Swahili and English from home, Korean from living here, and a little Japanese from school." "That's very impressive," Taeyun said. "How did you end up in Seoul?" It was the question she'd been dreading. The real answer was too complicated, too painful. "I needed a fresh start," she said simply. Something in his eyes suggested he understood there was more to the story, but he didn't push. They talked for another 30 minutes. Grandmother did most of the talking, sharing embarrassing stories about Taeyun as a child. He endured it with patience that suggested this was normal, but Nasirian caught him suppressing a smile more than once. When she finally said she should go, grandmother's face fell. "So soon? I have work early tomorrow." "Of course." Grandmother reached across the table and took Nasirian's hand. "Will you come again, please? It's been so lovely having you here." Nasirian hesitated. She'd promised herself this would be a one-time thing, but looking at grandmother's hopeful face, she couldn't say no. "Maybe," she said carefully, "if time allows. I'll take it." Grandmother squeezed her hand. "Thank you for humoring an old woman." "It was my pleasure, really." Taeyun stood when she did. "I'll walk you out." They left grandmother in the garden and walked through the house in silence. At the door, Nasirian expected him to say goodbye and send her off with Mrs. Lee. "Instead," he said, "I'm heading your direction. I'll drive you." "That's not necessary." "I know. I'm offering anyway." She should refuse. She should maintain her boundaries. But something in his expression made her nod. His car was parked near the entrance, a sleek black sedan that probably cost more than she'd earn in 10 years. He opened the passenger door for her, then got in the driver's side. The interior was immaculate. Leather seats, dark wood accents, technology she didn't understand. It smelled like him, clean and expensive. They drove in silence for a few minutes. Nasirian watched Seoul pass by outside the window, the neighborhoods getting progressively less exclusive as they went. "Thank you for coming today," Taeyeon said finally. "It meant a lot to my grandmother. She's wonderful. I enjoyed meeting her properly. She likes you. She doesn't like many people. I find that hard to believe. It's true. She's polite to everyone, kind to most, but she only genuinely likes a few." He glanced at her briefly before returning his eyes to the road. "She has good instincts about people. I trust her judgment." "And what's your judgment?" The question came out before Nasirian could stop it. Too personal, too forward. But Taeyoon didn't seem to mind. "I think you're someone who does the right thing even when it's hard. That's rare, valuable. You don't know me well enough to make that assessment." "Don't I? You smashed an 8 million won window to save a stranger. You refused payment. You avoided the media. You came to tea today even though you clearly didn't want to, because you knew it would make an old woman happy." He turned onto her street. "Those actions tell me exactly who you are." Nasirian didn't know what to say to that. He pulled up in front of her building and put the car in park. "I meant what I said before. If you want this to be the last time we meet, I'll respect that, but I hope it's not." "Why?" "Because my grandmother deserves to spend time with people who make her happy. And you make her happy. Is that the only reason?" The words hung in the air between them. Nasirian couldn't believe she'd asked. What was wrong with her? Taeyeon turned to look at her fully, his dark eyes intense. "No," he said quietly. "It's not." Her heart stuttered. Before she could respond, her phone buzzed. A text from Mina with about 15 exclamation points, demanding details. The moment broke. "I should go," Nasirian said, suddenly flustered. "Of course." He got out and opened her door, before she could do it herself. She stepped out onto the sidewalk, very aware of curious neighbors watching from windows. "Thank you for the ride." "Anytime." He pulled out his phone. "May I have your number?" "So grandmother can reach you directly if she wants to invite you again." Nasirian knew it was an excuse, but she gave him her number anyway. His phone buzzed immediately as he saved it. "Got it. Have a good evening, Nasirian." "You too." She walked into her building without looking back, but she felt his eyes on her until she disappeared inside. The next few days were strange. Work continued as normal, though customers still occasionally recognized her. The media attention was dying down, which she appreciated. But her phone buzzed regularly now, with messages from grandmother. Little things, photos of the garden, articles she thought Nasirian might enjoy, questions about Tanzania. Nasirian found herself responding, engaging in conversations that felt surprisingly natural. And twice, messages came from Taeyeon. The first was a link to a news article about the car manufacturer issuing a recall due to the electrical problem. "Thought you'd want to know. Your quick thinking probably prevented this from happening to others." The second came 3 days after the tea. "Grandmother is asking when you're free for lunch. She promises Korean food this time. Says you should try her cooking." Nasirian stared at that message for a long time before responding. "I'm off this Sunday." The reply came immediately. "Perfect. I'll pick you up at 11. I can take the bus." "I know you can, but I'll pick you up anyway. Wear comfortable clothes. Grandmother wants to show you her garden properly." Nasirian put her phone down, her stomach fluttering with something that definitely wasn't anxiety. Sunday came too quickly and too slowly at the same time. She changed outfits 4 times before settling on simple jeans and a white blouse. Casual, practical, nothing special. At exactly 11, there was a knock on her door. She opened it, to find Taeyeon standing there in dark jeans and a black shirt, the most casual she'd ever seen him. He looked younger, more approachable. "You came to the door," she said stupidly. "You live on the 3rd floor." Seemed rude to just text from the car. He noticed her staring. "Is something wrong?" "No. You're wearing jeans." The corner of his mouth lifted. "I do occasionally dress like a normal person. I'm learning that." They walked down to his car together. The same black sedan, but somehow it felt different in daylight, less intimidating. "My grandmother has been cooking since dawn." Taeyeon said as they drove. I hope you're hungry. Should I be worried? Terrified. She's making enough food for 10 people. Nasirian laughed, and she saw him smile in response. A real smile that transformed his entire face. When they arrived at the house, grandmother was waiting at the door wearing an apron, flour on her cheek. You're here, she practically sang. Come, come. Everything's almost ready. The kitchen was indeed filled with food. Dishes covered every surface, the air thick with delicious smells. Grandmother, this is too much, Taeyeon said. Nonsense. Nasirian needs to try real Korean home cooking, not restaurant food. She handed Nasirian an apron. Come help me with the last few things. They cooked together, grandmother teaching her how to properly arrange the side dishes, explaining each ingredient and its significance. Taeyeon set the table, quietly efficient. When they finally sat down to eat, Nasirian was overwhelmed by the spread. I don't know where to start. Start anywhere, grandmother encouraged. Everything is made with love. They ate and talked for 2 hours. Grandmother told stories about old Seoul, about traditions that were disappearing. Taeyeon added his own memories, surprising Nasirian with his dry humor. After lunch, grandmother insisted on showing Nasirian the garden properly. They walked the stone paths while grandmother explained the meaning behind different plants and arrangements. Taeyeon followed at a distance, taking a phone call but keeping them in sight. He's always working, grandmother said fondly. I wish he'd slow down, find some happiness outside of business. He seems devoted to taking care of you. He is. Too devoted sometimes. He puts my needs above his own. She stopped by a cherry tree, not yet in bloom. I worry about him being alone when I'm gone. You're not going anywhere anytime soon. We never know, do we? 3 days in a hot car taught me that. She turned to Nasirian. Promise me something. What? If something happens to me, look after him. He pretends to be strong, but he's more fragile than he appears. Grandmother, I barely know him. You will. She patted Nasirian's hand. I have a feeling about you two. Before Nasirian could respond to that cryptic statement, Taeyeon appeared, his expression tense. Grandmother, I need to take care of something. It shouldn't take long. Is everything all right? Grandmother's face creased with concern. Just business. Nothing to worry about. He looked at Nasirian. I hate to ask, but could you stay with her for an hour? I don't like leaving her alone, and the staff has the day off. Of course, Nasirian said. Relief flashed across his face. Thank you. I'll be back as soon as I can. He left quickly, and Nasirian caught a glimpse of the other side of his life, the dangerous side that required urgent exits and tense phone calls. Grandmother seemed unbothered. Let's have tea in the pavilion. I want to show you my photo albums. The next hour was lovely. Grandmother shared pictures from her youth, her wedding, her children growing up, baby Taeyeon, who'd been chubby and serious even then. He had a hard childhood, grandmother said quietly, showing a picture of young Taeyeon at maybe 10 years old, standing stiff and formal. Lost his parents too young, had to grow up too fast. Sometimes I think he forgot how to be happy. He seems happy with you. With me, yes, but I won't be here forever. I want him to have someone, a real connection. He keeps everyone at arm's length, even the women who throw themselves at him. She looked at Nasirian meaningfully. He needs someone who sees him, not his power or his money. Nasirian felt heat creep up her neck. Grandmother, I think you're getting the wrong idea about why I'm here. Am I? Her eyes twinkled. We'll see. Taeyeon returned 90 minutes later, looking tired. There was tension in his shoulders that hadn't been there before. Everything okay? Grandmother asked. Handled. He noticed their teacups. Sorry I took longer than expected. We had a wonderful time, grandmother said. Didn't we, Nasirian? We did. Good. He checked his watch. I should get Nasirian home before it gets too late. They said their goodbyes, grandmother hugging Nasirian tightly and making her promise to come back soon. In the car, Taeyeon was quieter than usual. Nasirian watched the city lights begin to flicker on as evening approached. Bad day? she asked carefully. Nothing I couldn't handle. Want to talk about it? He glanced at her, surprised. Most people don't ask me that. I'm not most people. A small smile. No, you're not. He was quiet for a moment, then said, someone thought they could take advantage of one of my establishments. They were wrong. Did anyone get hurt? No, just their pride and their wallet. Nasirian decided not to ask for details. Thank you for staying with my grandmother, Taeyeon said. I know it's not your responsibility. I like spending time with her. She's easy to talk to. She likes you too, a lot. You're all she talks about lately. He pulled up to her building. It's nice, seeing her this happy. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Can I ask you something? Nasirian said. Of course. Why are you really doing all this? The car service, the invitations, spending your time with me. I saved your grandmother, yes, but this seems like more than gratitude. Taeyoon's hands tightened on the steering wheel. When he spoke, his voice was careful. When you have power and money, everyone wants something from you. Everyone has an angle, a scheme, a plan. You learn to trust no one, to see everyone as a potential threat or user. It's lonely, but it's safe. He turned to look at her. Then you appear, and you want nothing. You help because it's right. You refuse payment because you don't need the complication. You spend time with an old woman because you genuinely enjoy her company. You're real, in a world where almost nothing is. So yes, maybe this started as gratitude. But now, he paused. Now I just want to know you better. Nasirian's heart hammered in her chest. I'm not that special. I disagree. Taeyeon, I work at a supermarket. I live in a tiny apartment. I have no family here, no connections, no status. We live in completely different worlds. So this, whatever this is, it doesn't make sense. Most good things don't. He reached over and gently took her hand. His skin was warm, his grip firm but careful. I'm not asking for anything, Nasirian. I'm just asking you to keep having tea with my grandmother. Keep letting me drive you home sometimes. Keep being exactly who you are. That's all. She should pull her hand away. She should maintain distance, protect herself, remember all the reasons this was a bad idea. Instead, she squeezed his hand back. Okay, she whispered. His smile was bright enough to light up the car. Okay, he repeated. She pulled her hand back reluctantly and opened the door. Thank you for today. Thank you for making my grandmother smile like that. Nasirian got out, then leaned down to look at him through the open door. For what it's worth, I think you're more than your power, and money too. She closed the door and walked into her building, feeling his eyes on her the whole way. Inside her apartment, she leaned against the door and took a shaky breath. What was she doing? Her phone buzzed. A text from Taeyoon. Sleep well. Despite everything, despite all her logical concerns and worries, she smiled. You too, she texted back. Outside, she heard his car drive away. And for the first time in 5 years, Nasirian felt something she thought she'd lost forever. Hope. The next 2 weeks fell into a pattern Nasirian hadn't expected. Grandmother texted her every morning, simple messages that made her smile, photos of flowers, recipes she wanted to share, sometimes just a cheerful good morning, with a string of emojis that seemed hilariously out of character. Taeyoon was more reserved, but his messages came too, usually practical, asking if she needed anything, letting her know his grandmother was asking about her, occasionally sharing something he thought she'd find interesting. Nasirian told herself it was just friendship, just gratitude that had evolved into something pleasant but temporary. She was lying to herself and she knew it. The problem started at work on a Wednesday afternoon. Nasirian was restocking shelves when she heard 2 co-workers talking in the next aisle. She wouldn't have paid attention, except she heard her own name. I'm just saying it's suspicious, one voice said. It was Jiwoo, a woman who'd worked there for 3 years. She breaks an expensive car window, and suddenly, she's best friends with one of the richest families in Seoul? Maybe she's just nice, the other voice replied. Mina, defending her. Nice? Come on. Foreign girl, widow, barely makes enough to live on, and suddenly she's driving around in luxury cars? You don't think she planned the whole thing? Naserian froze, a can of soup halfway to the shelf. That's a terrible thing to say, Mina argued. You saw the video. That old woman was really trapped. Or it was staged. Break the window, play the hero, get the rich family's attention. Pretty smart, actually. Jiwoo, that's ridiculous. Is it? She refused payment at first, right? That's classic manipulation. Refuse the money so they think you're genuine, then wait for bigger opportunities. I bet she's already got her hooks into that grandson. He's single, powerful, probably lonely. Easy target. Naserian's hands shook. The soup can slipped from her fingers and hit the floor with a loud crash. The talking stopped. She picked up the can and walked around the aisle. Both women stared at her, Jiwoo's face flushing red. Naserian, we weren't, Jiwoo stammered. Yes, you were. Naserian kept her voice level, even though anger burned in her chest. You were accusing me of staging an emergency to trap a rich man. Just so we're clear. I didn't mean it like that. How did you mean it then? Jiwoo couldn't meet her eyes. People are just talking. You have to admit it looks strange. What looks strange? That I helped someone? Or that someone actually appreciated it? You're spending a lot of time with them. People notice. And that bothers you because... Jiwoo finally looked up, her expression defensive. Because some of us have worked here for years, struggling to make ends meet, following all the rules, and you show up and suddenly you're riding in fancy cars, and probably getting all kinds of benefits. It's not fair. Naserian felt something cold settle in her stomach. You think I want this attention? You think I enjoy people I've never met, deciding who I am and what my intentions are? I helped an old woman who was dying. That's it. Everything else just happened. Sure it did, Jiwoo muttered. Mina grabbed Naserian's arm. Come on, let's go to the break room. But Naserian shook her head. No, I'm tired of running away from gossip. She looked at Jiwoo directly. Believe whatever makes you feel better about your own choices. But don't pretend you know anything about me or my life. She walked away before Jiwoo could respond, her whole body trembling. In the bathroom, she splashed cold water on her face and stared at her reflection. When had everything gotten so complicated? 3 weeks ago, her life was simple, quiet, lonely maybe, but safe. Now people she barely knew had opinions about her character, her intentions, her entire existence. Her phone buzzed. A text from Taeyeon. Grandmother wants to know if you're free Friday evening. She's insisting on teaching you to make kimchi. Naserian stared at the message. She should say no. Distance herself before the rumors got worse, before things got more tangled. But the thought of disappointing grandmother, of cutting off the one source of genuine warmth she'd found in Seoul, made her chest ache. I'll be there, she typed back. The response came quickly. I'll pick you up at 6. She put her phone away and went back to work, ignoring the stares and whispers that followed her for the rest of the shift. That evening, she came home to find an envelope slipped under her door. Inside was a letter, handwritten in Korean. It took her a few minutes to work through the formal language, but the message was clear enough. Someone had filed a complaint with her building's management, claiming she was involved in illegal activities and bringing dangerous people to the residence. The management wanted to meet with her to discuss her lease. Naserian sat on her couch, the letter shaking in her hands. This was getting out of control. Her phone rang. Taeyoon's name on the screen. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Hello? What's wrong? His voice was sharp, concerned. What do you mean? I can hear it in your voice. Something happened. Naserian closed her eyes. Of course he could tell. He seemed to notice everything about her. Just a bad day at work, and my building manager wants to meet with me about complaints. Silence on the other end. Then, what kind of complaints? Apparently I'm involved in illegal activities and bringing dangerous people around. She laughed, but it came out bitter. Funny how helping someone turned into this. Give me your building manager's name. No. Naserian, I can fix this. That's exactly the problem. She stood up, pacing her small apartment. Don't you see? Every time you fix something, it makes the rumors worse. People already think I'm using you, that I staged the whole rescue to get your attention. If you start interfering with my housing, it'll just prove them right. I don't care what people think. Well, I do. This is my life, Taeyoon. I have to live here, work here, exist here, after you and your grandmother get bored of your charity project. The words came out harsher than she intended. She heard him take a sharp breath. Is that what you think this is? His voice was quiet, dangerous. Charity? Isn't it? No. The single word was firm. Charity is writing a check and forgetting about it. This is, I don't know what to call it, but it's not charity. Then what is it? It's my grandmother caring about someone who saved her life. It's me wanting to spend time with someone who doesn't want anything from me except honesty. It's, damn it, Nasirian, do I really have to spell it out? Her heart hammered. Maybe you do. Another silence, longer this time. When he spoke again, his voice was different, vulnerable, in a way she'd never heard. I like you. Not because you saved my grandmother. Not because you're some good deed I need to repay. I like talking to you. I like the way you challenge me. The way you're not impressed by any of the things that usually impress people. I like that you tear up checks, and refuse car service, and argue with me about everything. I like you, Nasirian. And I think you might like me too, which terrifies you because it's easier to push me away than to risk getting hurt. Nasirian couldn't breathe. She sat back down, her legs suddenly weak. Am I wrong? He asked. No, she whispered. You're not wrong. Then stop running. Stop assuming the worst. Stop letting other people's small-mindedness dictate what you allow into your life. It's not that simple. It is exactly that simple. People will talk no matter what you do. Let them. The people who matter, the people who actually know you, they'll see the truth. And what is the truth? That you're brave and kind, and you make my grandmother laugh more than she has in years. That you make me feel like maybe there's more to life than business and obligations. That's the truth. Everything else is just noise. Nasirian felt tears prick her eyes. I'm scared. Of what? Of this. Of you. Of feeling something again, after I promised myself I wouldn't. I know, he said gently. I'm scared too. But I'm more scared of letting you go, because I was too much of a coward to be honest. She wiped her eyes, laughing wetly. When did you get so good with words? I'm not. I'm terrible at this. I'm just trying to make you understand, before you convince yourself that walking away is the smart choice. Maybe it is the smart choice. Probably. But since when do either of us make smart choices? You smashed a car window. I'm falling for a woman who wants nothing I can actually give her. We're both terrible at self-preservation. Nasirian's breath caught at the word falling. He'd said it so casually, like it didn't change everything. Taeyoon. Come Friday, he said. Make kimchi with my grandmother. Let me drive you home. Give this, whatever this is, a real chance. If after that you still want distance, I'll respect it. But please, Nasirian, don't run because you're scared. You're braver than that. She thought about grandmother's smile, about the way Taeyoon's eyes softened when he looked at her, about feeling less alone than she had in 5 years. Okay, she said quietly. Friday. She heard his exhale of relief. Friday. I'll see you then. After they hung up, Nasirian sat in the dark for a long time, her phone still in her hand. She was in so much trouble. Friday came too fast. Nasirian changed clothes 3 times, finally settling on casual pants and a simple shirt. This was just kimchi making. Nothing special. Definitely not a date. She was still trying to convince herself of that when Tae-shun knocked on her door at exactly 6. He wore dark jeans and a gray sweater, his hair slightly messy, like he'd run his hands through it. He looked good, unfairly good. Hi, she said. Hi. He smiled, then held out a small bag. Grandmother sent these. Traditional rice cakes. She made them this morning. She didn't have to do that. Try telling her that. She's been cooking for 2 days straight. I think she's planning to feed you until you can't move. They walked to his car, and Nasirian noticed a couple from her building watching from their window. She lifted her chin and ignored them. In the car, Tae-yoon said, "I looked into the complaint at your building. I asked you not to. I know, I did it anyway. The complaint was anonymous, but the manager agreed it had no merit. You won't have any problems with your lease." Nasirian wanted to be angry at his interference, but mostly she just felt relieved. "Thank you. You're welcome." He glanced at her. "For what it's worth, I didn't threaten anyone or throw money around. I just had my lawyer send a letter clarifying that you're not involved in anything illegal, and that anonymous complaints without evidence are harassment." "You have a lawyer on speed dial?" "I have 3 lawyers on speed dial. Comes with the territory." She shook her head, smiling despite herself. "Your life is so weird," says the woman who's become internet famous for smashing a car window. "That's different." "How?" "I don't know. It just is." They argued playfully the rest of the drive, the tension from earlier in the week dissolving into something easier, lighter. Grandmother was waiting in the kitchen, surrounded by ingredients, mountains of cabbage, bowls of spices, jars of fermented paste. "You're here," she beamed, pulling Nasirian into a hug. "Good, good. We have so much work to do." The next 3 hours were chaos in the best way. Grandmother taught Nasirian how to salt the cabbage, mix the spice paste, fold everything together just right. Tae-yoon helped too, his expensive sweater protected by an apron that said, "Kiss the cook," in English. Nasirian couldn't stop laughing at the image of Seoul's most dangerous man, wearing that apron, while carefully arranging kimchi in jars. "What's so funny?" he asked. "Nothing. You're just very domestic right now. I'll have you know I'm excellent in the kitchen." "He burned water once," Grandmother Stage whispered. "I was 12, Grandmother. Still counts." They worked and talked and laughed, and Nasirian felt something in her chest loosen. This felt like family, like home. When the kimchi was finally done and sealed in jars, Grandmother insisted they all sit down for dinner. She'd prepared a feast, as promised. Halfway through the meal, Grandmother's phone rang. She looked at the screen and frowned. "It's my doctor's office. I should take this." She stepped away from the table. Nasirian and Tae-yoon continued eating, comfortable in the silence. When Grandmother returned, her expression was troubled. "Everything okay?" Tae-yoon asked immediately. Yes, just my checkup results. Everything's fine." But she looked tired suddenly, older. "Grandmother, what did they say?" "Nothing to worry about. Just need to adjust some medications." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I'm a bit tired, though. Would you both mind if I went to rest?" "Of course not." Nasirian stood up. "Should I help you?" "No, dear. I'm fine. Just old." She kissed Nasirian's cheek. "Thank you for today. You bring such light into this house." She kissed Tae-yoon's forehead too, then shuffled toward her room, suddenly moving like her age. When she was gone, Tae-yoon's expression was dark with worry. "She's not telling me something," he said. "Should you call her doctor?" "I will. Tomorrow. She hates when I hover." He started clearing dishes, his movements jerky with suppressed anxiety. Nasirian helped him, and they worked in silence until the kitchen was clean. "I should take you home," he said finally. In the car, he was quiet, lost in thought. Nasirian watched the city lights blur past. "She'll be okay," she said softly. "You don't know that." "No, but she's strong. She survived a locked car in the heat. She's not going anywhere yet." His hands tightened on the steering wheel. "I can't lose her. She's all I have." Without thinking, Nasirian reached over and placed her hand over his. "You're not going to lose her. And even if something happens eventually, you're not alone, Tae-yoon." He looked at their joined hands, then back at the road. "Aren't I?" "No." She squeezed his hand. "You have me." The words hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning. He pulled up to her building and parked, but neither of them moved to get out. "Do you mean that?" he asked quietly. "Yes." He turned to face her fully. "Nasirian, I need you to understand something. My world, it's complicated. Dangerous sometimes. People will use you to get to me. They'll say terrible things, Dig into your past. Try to find leverage. If we do this, if we're really doing this, it won't be easy. I know. And you're okay with that. She thought about it honestly. The rumors, the stares, the complications. Then she thought about grandmother's laugh, about the way Taeyun looked at her like she was something precious, about feeling less alone. I'm not okay with it, she said, but I'm willing to deal with it, if you are. He reached out and gently tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, his touch careful, reverent. I'm willing to deal with anything, if it means I get to keep seeing you. Her heart stuttered. Taeyun, I'm not good at this, he said. I don't know how to do the romance thing, the dating thing, but I know I want to try. With you. Naserian felt tears prick her eyes. I'm not good at it either. I haven't, since my husband died. I haven't wanted to try with anyone. And now? Now I'm terrified, but I want to try too. He smiled, really smiled, and it transformed his whole face. We're going to be terrible at this. Absolutely awful, she agreed, laughing. He leaned forward slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. His forehead touched hers, their breath mingling in the small space between them. Can I kiss you? He whispered. Yes. His lips met hers softly, carefully, like she was something that might break. It was gentle and sweet and perfect, and when they pulled apart, Naserian felt like her whole world had tilted. Wow, she breathed. Yeah, he touched her cheek. Wow. They sat there for a moment, just looking at each other, both slightly stunned. Then Naserian's phone buzzed, a text from grandmother. Did he kiss you yet? If not, tell him to stop being a coward. Naserian burst out laughing and showed Taeyun the message. He groaned. She's not even here, and she's managing my life. She's watching from her window, isn't she? They both looked up at the house they'd just left. Sure enough, a curtain in an upstairs window twitched. Definitely watching, Taeyun confirmed. Naserian texted back. Yes, grandmother. He kissed me. The response was immediate. Good. About time. Don't stay up too late. You both have work tomorrow. They both laughed. The moment perfect despite, or maybe because of, grandmother's interference. I should really go, Naserian said reluctantly. I know, but neither of them moved. Finally, Taeyun got out and opened her door, walking her to the building entrance like a proper gentleman. At the door, he kissed her once more, brief but warm. I'll call you tomorrow, he promised. You better. She floated up the stairs to her apartment, feeling lighter than she had in years. The next week was like living in a dream. Taeyun called every day, sometimes just to talk for 5 minutes between meetings, sometimes for an hour late at night, when neither of them could sleep. They texted constantly, silly things and serious things and everything in between. Grandmother continued her stream of messages too, sharing updates on her health, which was apparently fine despite Naserian's worries, and asking pointed questions about their relationship that made Naserian blush. At work, the rumors continued, but Naserian found she cared less. Mina remained a good friend, and the others could think whatever they wanted. Then everything changed on a Tuesday afternoon. Naserian was on her lunch break when her phone rang, an unknown number. Hello? Miss Naserian? This is Detective Kim from the Seoul Metropolitan Police. Do you have a moment to speak about the incident involving Im Sun-hee's vehicle? Her stomach dropped. Yes, of course. Our investigation into the car malfunction has concluded. I wanted to inform you personally of the results. The vehicle experienced a complete electrical system failure due to a manufacturing defect. Your action in breaking the window was not only justified, but likely saved Madame In's life. The heat inside the vehicle had reached dangerous levels, and medical experts confirmed she would have suffered serious harm within minutes. Relief flooded through her. Thank you for letting me know. There's more. The car manufacturer is issuing a full recall of that model. Your quick thinking and the resulting media attention brought this safety issue to light. You may have saved many other lives as well. After the call ended, Naserian sat in the break room, processing. All the people who'd accused her of staging it, of having ulterior motives, they were wrong. Provably wrong. She texted Taeyeon. Police called. Official investigation confirms the car malfunction. I'm cleared of any wrongdoing. His response came immediately. I never doubted you for a second. This calls for celebration. Dinner tonight? Somewhere nice? Somewhere with good food. Nice is optional. You're killing me. Fine. I know a place. Casual, excellent food. I promise. That evening, he took her to a small restaurant tucked away in a quiet neighborhood. Nothing flashy, just good Korean food and comfortable booths. They were halfway through dinner when Nasirian noticed 3 men enter the restaurant. They wore expensive suits and carried themselves with authority. Their eyes scanned the room and landed on Taeyeon. She felt him tense beside her. One of the men approached their table. He was older, 50s maybe, with sharp eyes and a smile that didn't reach them. Ju Taeyeon, the man said. Didn't expect to see you here. And with company. Director Yoon. Taeyeon's voice was polite but cold. I'm having dinner, privately. I can see that. Director Yoon's eyes shifted to Nasirian, assessing. This must be the famous rescuer, the one everyone's talking about. This is Nasirian, Taeyeon said, his tone warning the man to tread carefully. Nasirian. Director Yoon runs a competing business group. Pleasure, Nasirian said, though it clearly wasn't. The pleasure is mine. You've become quite the celebrity. Brave woman, breaking that window. Some might say suspiciously brave. Taeyeon's expression went dangerous. Careful. I'm just saying what others are thinking. Foreign woman, struggling financially, suddenly befriends one of Seoul's most powerful families. It's an interesting story. It's the truth, Nasirian said firmly. Believe it or don't. I don't really care. Director Yoon laughed. Spirit. I like that. But be careful, dear. The world Taeyeon lives in, it eats up people like you. Sweet, innocent, genuine. You'll be chewed up and spit out. That's enough. Taeyeon stood, his full height imposing. You've said your piece. Now leave. Just offering friendly advice to both of you. Director Yoon nodded at his companions, and they left, but not before casting one more calculating look at Nasirian. When they were gone, Taeyeon sat back down, his jaw clenched. I'm sorry about that. Who was he really? Someone who thinks the world is a game, and people are pieces to be played. He took her hand. He's trying to get to me through you. Make you doubt. Make you scared. Make you leave. Will there be more people like him? Probably. Nasirian nodded slowly. Okay. Okay? You warned me it would be complicated. I said I could handle it. I meant it. She squeezed his hand. I'm not going anywhere, just because some man in an expensive suit tries to intimidate me. Taehyun's expression softened. You're amazing, you know that? I'm really not. I'm just stubborn. Same thing. They finished dinner, but the encounter had shifted the mood. In the car, Taehyun was quiet, thoughtful. What are you thinking? Nasirian asked. That I'm being selfish, dragging you into my mess. I walked into your mess willingly. There's a difference. Is there? He pulled up to her building, but didn't put the car in park. Nasirian. It's only going to get harder. My associates are already asking questions. Director Yoon won't be the last person to make comments. The media might start digging into your background. Are you really prepared for that? Are you trying to scare me away? I'm trying to give you an out before this goes any further. Nasirian turned in her seat to face him fully. Do you want me to take the out? No. The answer was immediate, almost desperate. But what I want doesn't matter if it puts you in danger or makes your life hell. Let me decide what I can handle. You don't understand how bad it could get. Then explain it to me. He ran his hand through his hair, frustrated. People in my world, they play dirty. They'll dig up every painful moment of your past and use it against you. They'll spread rumors, create scandals. Maybe worse. Being with me puts a target on your back, and I hate that. I hate that wanting to be with you means putting you at risk. But you do want to be with me. Yes, he looked at her, and the raw honesty in his eyes made her breath catch. More than I've wanted anything in a very long time. Then we figure it out together. You stop trying to protect me by pushing me away, and I promise to tell you when things get too hard. Deal? He studied her face for a long moment. You're sure? I'm terrified, but I'm sure. He pulled her into a kiss, this one more intense than before, filled with relief and want and gratitude. When they broke apart, both were breathing hard. You're going to drive me crazy, he murmured against her lips. Good. You deserve it for being so dramatic. He laughed, the sound surprising them both. How do you do that? Do what? Make everything feel less heavy. Years of practice dealing with difficult people. Am I a difficult person? The most difficult, but I like you anyway. They sat in his car for another 20 minutes, just talking and stealing kisses like teenagers. When Naserian finally went inside, she felt like she was floating. The next morning, she woke up to her phone exploding with notifications. Confused, she checked social media, and her heart sank. Someone had posted photos of her and Taeyoon at the restaurant. Close-up shots of them holding hands, kissing in the car, looking at each other with obvious affection. The headlines were brutal. Ju Taeyoon's mystery woman revealed, foreign supermarket worker. From window smasher to girlfriend, the calculated rise of Naserian. Did she plan it all along? Timeline of the convenient rescue. The comments were worse. Hundreds of people, most using anonymous accounts, tearing her apart. Gold digger, opportunist, manipulator. And those were the kind ones. Others were racist, cruel, explicit. Naserian sat on her bed, her hands shaking. Her phone rang. Taeyoon. Don't read the comments, he said immediately. Too late. I'm handling it. My team is already working on taking down the worst posts and tracking who leaked the photos. This is what you meant, isn't it? When you said it would get bad. Yes. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Naserian. She took a shaky breath. What do we do? We ignore it. We keep living our lives. Eventually they'll get bored and move on to the next scandal. And if they don't? Silence. Then, do you want to stop seeing each other? We can stage a breakup, make it look mutual, get them off your back. Every logical part of Naserian's brain screamed yes. This was too much, too fast, too public. But then she thought about grandmother's smile, about Taeyoon's laugh, about feeling like she belonged somewhere for the first time in 5 years. No, she said firmly. I don't want to stop. She heard his exhale of relief. Thank God. I was terrified you'd say yes. I'm not going to lie. This is horrible. I hate every second of it. But I hate the thought of not seeing you more. I'll fix this, I promise. Don't do anything illegal. I would never do anything illegal, he said, and she could hear the smile in his voice. Taeyoon, I'll be perfectly legal. Mostly. I'll see you tonight, okay? I'm not letting this keep us apart. After they hung up, Naserian forced herself to get ready for work. She held her head high walking into the supermarket, even though everyone stared. Mr. Han pulled her aside immediately. Naserian, maybe you should take a few days off. Let this blow over. Why? I didn't do anything wrong? I know, but the attention, it's not good for business. We've had reporters calling. Tell them no comment. I'm not hiding because people are gossiping. He looked uncomfortable, but nodded. Okay, but if it gets worse, we might need to reconsider. She worked her shift, ignoring the whispers. The phone cameras pointed at her, when customers thought she wasn't looking, the way some people avoided her aisle entirely. During her break, Mina sat with her. You okay? Mina asked. Not really, but I will be. For what it's worth, I think it's romantic. Powerful guy falls for regular girl. It's like a drama. It's a drama, all right, just not the fun kind. He must really like you to deal with all this publicity. Naserian thought about that. I think he does. And you like him? Yeah, I really do. Mina smiled. Then screw everyone else. Be happy. You deserve it. The words settled something in Naserian's chest. She did deserve happiness, and she wasn't going to let strangers on the internet take it from her. That evening, Taeyun picked her up from work. There were photographers waiting. "Ignore them," he said, his hand firm on her back as he guided her to the car. Questions were shouted at them. "Nazirian, did you know who Im Sun-hee was when you helped her? Mr. Ju, is this relationship serious? How long have you been dating? Is it true you're already living together?" Taeyun opened the car door for her, shielding her from the cameras. Once they were inside, he pulled away smoothly. "That was awful," Nazirian said. "It'll get better. They just want a reaction. When they don't get one, they'll lose interest." They drove to his grandmother's house, where she was waiting with tea and sympathy. "I saw the news," grandmother said, hugging Nazirian tightly. "Vultures, all of them." "I'm okay, grandmother. You shouldn't have to be just okay. You should be able to live your life without harassment." She shot a look at Taeyun. "Fix this." "I'm working on it. Work faster." They spent the evening together, and grandmother's presence made everything feel more manageable. She told stories, made them laugh, insisted they eat too much food. When it was time to leave, she pulled Nazirian aside. "You're strong," grandmother said. "Stronger than you know. Don't let small people make you feel small." "Thank you, grandmother. And you make my grandson happy, really happy. That's worth fighting for." In the car on the way home, Nazirian said, "Your grandmother is incredible. She likes you more than she likes me at this point." "Smart woman." He laughed and grabbed her hand, kissing her knuckles. "Move in with me." Nazirian nearly choked. "What?" "Move in with me. Your building has complaints, you're being harassed at work. The media knows where you live. My building has security, privacy, space. It makes sense." "Taeyun, we've been officially dating for like a week." "Has it only been a week?" "Feels longer." "That's not the point. Moving in together is a big deal. So is having photographers staking out your apartment." He had a point, but still, "I need time to think about it." "Take all the time you need. The offer stands." He pulled up to her building, where sure enough, a photographer sat in a parked car across the street. Taeyun got out, walked over to the photographer's car, and had a brief conversation. The photographer packed up his camera and drove away. "What did you say to him?" Nazirian asked when Taeyun returned. "That he had two choices: leave now and never come back, or I'd buy his employer's company and fire everyone. He chose wisely." "That's slightly terrifying. I prefer effective." He walked her to her door, kissed her goodnight, and waited until she was safely inside before leaving. Nazirian leaned against her door, her mind spinning. Move in with him? It was crazy. Too fast. Too much. But also, kind of made sense. She pushed the thought away for now. Too much to process after an already overwhelming day. The next week brought a surprising turn. The official investigation results were publicly released, completely exonerating Nazirian. Major news outlets ran stories about the car recall, about how her quick action had potentially saved lives beyond just grandmothers. Public opinion started to shift. Comment sections filled with people defending her, pointing out that she'd helped someone before knowing who they were, that the relationship came later. Nazirian's co-workers were less hostile. Mr. Han stopped looking at her like she was a liability. And then, on Friday, grandmother called her. "Nazirian, dear, I need your help with something." "Of course. What is it?" "I'm having a small gathering tomorrow evening. Just close friends. I'd like you to come, to meet people, as Taeyun's girlfriend." Nazirian's stomach flipped. "Grandmother, I don't know if I'm ready for that." "Which is exactly why you should do it. Rip off the bandage, as they say. These people will be part of your life. If you're serious about my grandson, might as well meet them sooner than later." She had a point. "Okay, I'll be there." "Wonderful. Taeyun will pick you up at 6. The next evening, Nazirian changed outfits 5 times before settling on a simple black dress. Elegant, but not trying too hard. Taeyun arrived exactly on time, wearing a dark suit that made him look unfairly handsome. "You look beautiful," he said. "You have to say that." "I really don't. But it's true." He offered his arm. "Ready?" "Absolutely not. Let's go anyway." The gathering was smaller than she'd feared. About 20 people, all older, all clearly important based on how they carried themselves. Grandmother made a point of introducing Nasirian to everyone, emphasizing her bravery and quick thinking. Most people were polite, curious, friendly even. Then a woman in her 60s approached, her expression shrewd. "So you're the one," she said. "The window smasher." "I prefer lifesaver, but sure," Nasirian replied. The woman laughed. "I like her, Sunhee. She has spine." "I told you," Grandmother said proudly. Throughout the evening, Nasirian relaxed. These people weren't judging her. They were genuinely interested in her story, her life, her plans. Taeyunin stayed close, his hand occasionally finding hers, his presence steady and reassuring. Near the end of the night, Grandmother called for everyone's attention. "Thank you all for coming. I want to say something important." She looked at Nasirian with tears in her eyes. 3 weeks ago, I thought I was going to die in a hot car, alone and forgotten. This woman, who didn't know me, who had nothing to gain, saved my life. She's given me more time with my grandson, more time to enjoy this beautiful world, but more than that, she's brought joy back into our home. She's reminded us both that kindness still exists, that good people still exist. Nasirian felt tears threatening. "So I want everyone here to know, Nasirian is family now. Anyone who hurts her, hurts me. Anyone who questions her character, answers to me. She's under my protection, and that means something." The room burst into applause. Nasirian wiped her eyes, overwhelmed. Taeyun squeezed her hand. "Told you she liked you." After the guests left, the three of them sat in the garden under the stars. "Thank you, Grandmother," Nasirian said. "For tonight, for everything. Thank you, dear girl. For saving my life, for making my stubborn grandson smile, for being exactly who you are." They sat in comfortable silence, and Nasirian felt something settle in her chest. Peace, belonging, home. Later, in the car, Taeyun said, "So about moving in?" "I've been thinking about it. And I think I need my own space still. But maybe we could, I don't know, spend more time together? Take it slow but steady?" He smiled. "I can work with slow but steady." "Yeah? Yeah. As long as at the end of the day, I get to be with you. I don't care how we get there." Nasirian leaned over and kissed him. "You're pretty great, you know that? You make me want to be great." Over the next month, they fell into a rhythm. Dinners together several times a week. Weekend mornings at grandmother's house. Late-night phone calls when work kept them apart. The media attention faded. New scandals took over the headlines. People moved on. Nasirian kept her job at the supermarket, partly because she needed the independence, partly because she'd learned that running from whispers gave them power. Taeyun introduced her to more of his world, the legitimate parts and, carefully, the complicated parts. She met his associates, learned the politics, understood the pressures. She didn't always like it, but she understood him better for seeing it. And grandmother, she became the anchor for both of them, the reminder that family wasn't just blood, it was choice. It was showing up. It was love in action. 3 months after the incident, Nasirian stood in grandmother's garden, watching the cherry blossoms bloom. Taeyun wrapped his arms around her from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. "What are you thinking about?" he asked. "How one decision changed everything. If I'd walked past that car, if I'd listened to the crowd, if I'd been too scared to break the window. But you didn't. You were brave when it mattered." "I was terrified. Courage isn't not being scared. It's being scared and doing the right thing anyway." He turned her to face him. "You saved my grandmother's life. You saved mine too, in a different way. That's dramatic. It's true. Before you, I was just going through motions. Now I'm actually living." Nasirian touched his face. "I love you." It was the first time she'd said it. His eyes widened, then filled with such joy it made her chest ache. "I love you too. So much." They kissed under the cherry blossoms, and Nasirian felt happiness bloom in her chest like flowers in spring. From the house, grandmother watched them through the window, a smile on her face. She'd known from the moment she saw Nazarian's determined face through the car window that this woman was special, that she was exactly what Taechun needed. Sometimes the worst moments lead to the best outcomes. Sometimes being trapped leads to freedom. Sometimes breaking something is the only way to fix what's truly broken. Grandmother turned away from the window, content. Her family was complete again. And it had all started with a broken window and a brave heart. If this story touched your heart, if you felt the butterflies and the hope, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button and share this with someone who needs to remember that one brave choice can change everything. Thank you for watching. And remember, sometimes the best things in life come from the moments when we choose courage over comfort. See you in the next story.